And I'm going to admit everyone. So, David, yes, admit all. Okay.
Our hands.
That's what they told us.
We have to raise our hands.
Yeah, we'll raise our hands.
Okay.
So I guess we wait for the.
Okay, I had to mute everyone. People were talking, so I will. I'm going to be unmuting the town board members. So Dan, you're unmuted. I think Alex, are you unmuted?
I am.
Okay. I hope I don't have to keep undoing this. And who else is? We're at 97. Okay, let me find you, Dan. Julie, are you on in the meeting yet?
She is.
Okay. And so Alex, you're unmuted. Dan, you're unmuted. David, you're unmuted. I need to find Julie and unmute her, and then we can get started. Julie, can you send me a text with your name?
I think it's just Julie.
All right. Julie, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we're all here now, right? We have 100 participants. We've maxed out now. We've maxed out our Zoom account. So everyone is welcome. Everyone, we are at 100 participants in the meeting. Thank you for being patient while we were figuring out this the Zoom stuff. We have. I'd like to welcome you all. Just to kind of get started, we have. There are a few technical items I want to go over for this remote meeting. In order to keep background noise down, everyone has been muted, and you're not allowed to unmute yourselves. Just so it stays under control. Like I said, there are over about 100 people on the call right now. So people attending via video, they can raise their hand when they want to talk, and people who are calling in can hit *9 to raise their hand. Each participant is going to be asked to keep their comments to 3 minutes, and we're going to be timing you, and then a noise will go off at that time. Please try to wrap it up we may ask you to wrap it up after that. And then we're going to have to mute you. We have 100 people, and we want to get through everything. We want to make sure everyone has a chance to be heard this evening. Understand that this is the first of many town halls. We're going to be doing this quite frequently. So even if you don't have a chance to get in tonight, we're going to have more of these discussions.
Yeah.
And then also just to be kind to your neighbors, because our Zoom account is limited to 100 people. We're also live streaming this on YouTube, and we have the link on the town's website for tonight's meeting. And so anyone who, after you feel as if you've been heard and you've spoken, you can go to the YouTube page and make room for someone else so they have their chance to talk as well. And that's really all I have for tonight. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to David. We're going to have a brief statement from the members of the New Paltz Town Board.
Neil, can you, just in case people don't understand, how do you raise your hand if you're on the video? Is that in the participants on the bottom? How do you raise your hand?
I don't know. Do you guys know how to raise your hand?
Not like this. I mean, is it raising your hand on Zoom, or is it raising?
Raise your hand on Zoom. I think there's a way to do it. I just have to figure it out.
Okay. Some people are saying they're going to message in the chat. I believe
we're not doing the chat. It's too hard to keep track of the chat and the hands, and then we don't know who raised their hand first. But Zoom, if people raise their hands in Zoom, Zoom will keep track of the order that it's done, and that's why we want to do it that way.
Okay, you click on Terrence is saying you click on the participants menu at the bottom, and there's a hand raising function there. And this way, Neil will be able to see everyone who's raising their hand, who's on video. Thank you, Terrence. For those on audio only, Neil instructed *9. Neil, that gives you what you need? Okay,
yes.
So that should let everybody know. We have 4 participants who are raising their hand right now. So now we'll get started with the town hall. Thank you, Neil, and thank you to all of our engaged neighbors for being here. As always, New Paltz is fully engaged, and that's really what's so wonderful. Tonight, for the next 90 minutes, the town board, in its role as police commission, and Chief Rob Lucchese are here to listen to your experiences, concerns, questions, and ideas about policing in New Paltz. This will be the first, as the supervisor said, of many opportunities for our community to speak to and listen to each other on police reform. We expect that there will be many feelings, upset, anger, and sadness among them, and please know that all of these feelings are welcome. So that we may hear from as many of you as possible, we are asking everyone to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes, and we will be enforcing that pretty carefully, especially with so many people wanting to speak. With no disrespect intended, please know that the town board and Chief Lucchese will intentionally not be answering your questions tonight, so that we may listen more fully to what you're saying. Instead, we will be recording this call, and we will answer all questions asked at this meeting in a written transcript that we will post publicly, so that all the questions can be seen, and the folks who are not on this call can also see the questions that were asked and how they were answered. We are seeking transparency with our community in all of our discussions, and so posting questions and answers publicly seems the best way to achieve this goal, at least for now. Additionally, Chief Lucchese and the Police Commission intend to schedule monthly conversations so that our community and our law enforcement agency are in regular dialogue with our community. And now, Dan Torres, our Deputy Supervisor, will read a short statement by the town board. Dan.
Thank you, David. So this is a statement that we released last week that some of you have probably already seen, but we just wanted to open with this as well. Over the past several months, magnified by COVID-19 and George Floyd's murder, we have all once again witnessed great and disproportionate injustice, racism, and oppression in our communities. With the outrage so many of us feel on a national and global level, we must recognize the opportunity to take a hard look at how we perpetuate these systems right here in New Paltz. And we must pledge to make courageous and bold change so we can ensure equity and justice in our community. The town board, in its role and as police commission, is unanimously and wholly committed to a timely, thorough, and complete review and information of police policies, protocols, practices, and funding as needed to ensure that all of our citizens are treated equally and fairly under the law, and that our law enforcement agency is trained in understanding and eliminating racism and injustice in all our policing practices. Our law enforcement agency practices are focused almost entirely on de-escalation strategies, and that all officers are trained to utilize strategies to emphasize all forms of violence in carrying out their duties. That there is complete thorough review of the form and function of our police by an independent group to ensure that oversight of New Paltz law enforcement agency is led by a competent, trained, and representative group of elected and or appointed community members. That funding for the police and all town of New Paltz social agencies is fully
Can I interrupt
reviewed
you?
and reallocated as necessary to balance public care and safety with an equal desire to eliminate and reverse all forms of systemic racism and oppression so that we serve all our citizens truly equitably. Governor Cuomo's recent executive order to, quote, reinvent and modernize police strategies and programs with community input. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Dan, let me try. I
I'm
think
not
your
sure if you
internet
can
is
hear
not
me,
doing so
but
well.
I finished the statement.
I think I'm going to read again in some parts because I think Dan was not heard.
Got
Can
it.
everyone hear me? Just a few people wave if you can hear me well. You can hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you, David.
Okay, I'm going to repeat a couple of those comments so that everyone can hear that. We are committed to we're wholly committed to a timely, thorough, and complete review and reformation of police policies, protocols, practices, and funding as needed to ensure that, one, all of our citizens are treated equally and fairly under the law, and that our law enforcement agency is trained in understanding and eliminating racism and injustice in all of our policing practices and policies. Number two, that our law enforcement agency's use of force practices are focused almost entirely on de-escalation strategies, and that all officers are trained to utilize strategies that de-emphasize all forms of violence in carrying out their duties. Three, that there is a complete and thorough review of the police commission to ensure that oversight of New Paltz's law enforcement agency is led by a competent, trained, and representative group of elected and or appointed community members. And four, that funding for the police and all town of New Paltz social agencies are fully reviewed and reallocated as necessary to balance our desire for care and safety with an equal desire to eliminate and reverse all forms of systemic racism and oppression so that we serve all of our citizens truly equitably. Governor Cuomo's recent executive order to reinvent and modernize police strategies and programs with community input mandates what the town board is willing and wanting to do. We work closely and collaboratively with all of you, our community of diverse citizens, to reform and transform our police and other municipal entities. Everything in our municipality is on the table for reformation and transformation. We are committed to drive racial equity and social justice throughout our community. So with that is the statement of the entire town board. All five of us approve that statement. And now we'd like to hear from you, and we'll ask Neil to call on you in the order that we heard from you, and just ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hey, Kieran, I've unmuted you.
Okay, thank you. So I want to speak to two things. First, I believe Rob Cisco, the New Paltz PD officer, should be fired immediately for his transphobic remarks. Trans people are already subject to disproportionate violence at the hands of police, and if Cisco stays in the force, more trans people are likely to be harassed or experience violence. Second, I believe New Paltz is severely over-policed, And as such, we should cut the department budget by at least half and divert funds elsewhere. To put things in perspective, New Paltz PD is only 1/4 of the total police presence in New Paltz. It's 20% of the total budget, which means it receives more funding than the library, fire department, ambulance corps, healthcare services, loop bus, rail trail, recreation spending, youth programs, street lights, recycling, and garbage collection combined. There's absolutely no reason to be spending $2.5 million on police when that money could be diverted to schools, the youth center, medical services, food aid, etc. And additionally, I saw on the agenda that there's a proposal to allocate $50,000 to a new police car. I would strongly argue against that and instead argue that those funds should be diverted to something more socially useful. And when you think about it, all the things that New Paltz PD are tasked with doing now, like showing up to medical emergencies or providing security at events, could easily be done by people who aren't armed and whose job doesn't consist of criminalizing people. For example, mental health professionals almost unanimously agree that trained professionals, not police, should be showing up during mental health emergencies. When it comes to things like domestic abuse, a trained non-law enforcement domestic violence task force would be much more prepared to give survivors the care and support they need. I've heard of at least 3 women in New Paltz whose abuse was minimized and doubted by New Paltz PD, including one woman who had a taser pointed at her. As for the common response to defunding police departments, what about crime? Police, as they exist now, for the most part, don't actually prevent crime. They simply clean it up after the fact, which means the 20+ officers that patrol our streets, in addition to UPD, Ulster County Sheriff, the state troopers, etc., are tasked mainly with small offenses like drug offenses that pose little threat to society and hardly require armed individuals constantly on patrol. And this is also a major source of racial bias, of course. There are roughly 20 to 30 violent crimes reported every year in New Paltz, and I would bet that very few, if any of those crimes, were actually stopped in progress. And needless to say, police scholars like David Bailey have found that there's no correlation between the number of police and crime rates. And so the point is, when you have more police on the streets, you'll have more police violence and racial bias. And given the recent move around the country towards defunding the police in Minneapolis, LA, New York City, Portland, I think it would be a grave mistake for New Paltz to fall behind the times and continue to allocate exorbitant amounts to the police department when we're already policed by 3 other departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Neil, who is next up? You're on mute, Neil.
Don Kerr is next.
Hey, thank you for doing this. It's a good first step. You clearly have your hearts and intentions in the right place. With people who had been traumatized or feel trauma about their experience with the police, I would ask you to consider another forum, a private forum where people could speak with you privately who might not be comfortable with this sort of forum. And I think in that sort of a situation, people might be intimidated by the presence of a member of the police department as well. So all due respect, it's just an observation. I think everyone involved here are people of goodwill and good intent. In addition to committing to be better moving forward, I think it's important to gain the trust of the community to look backwards also into the recent past. Since February of 2019, I've been talking to the town council about the incident in which Paul Eccles was left with a broken jaw, and a New Paltz Police Department officer admitted to striking him in the face 3 times while he was handcuffed. Mr. Eccles was charged, and a trial occurred that brought out many new facts previously unknown about the incident. But the police commission seems to remain ignorant about some of those facts because they've never sought them out. Doing so would require a review of the transcripts of the trial. And as recently as 2 weeks ago, those transcripts have never been transcribed. They remain on an audio tape. When I reported in a public comment in February 2019, the trial had revealed that the police cruiser dash cams were not in operation during that incident. I was interrupted with accusations like, that's not true. Well, we all know by now that it was true. And the fact that the police commission was not aware of that fact at that time is of no small concern because their investigation into the Eccles matter was already closed. So I'm glad the dash cam issue's been fixed. But if I had not informed the police commission in public comment, they would never have known that the dash cams were turned off. So I think it's important to get your information from as many sources as possible. And let me close by saying there is a second accusation that was made. And I want to be clear, I am not making this accusation, and I have no idea where the facts would actually lead. I also reported to this board in February 2019 that an accusation had been made that certain testimony at the Eccles trial by members of the police department was not found to be credible and was inconsistent with the verdict by the jury. Again, I'm not making that accusation. It might be crazy, but it's been made by a credible source. So I wonder, doesn't that sort of accusation rise to the level of investigation by the police commission to confirm or rebut? So I appreciate what you're doing. I don't mean to be a pain. I only got 3 minutes, so I can't put in all the positive things I want to say, but I wanted to make that point. So thanks for hearing me. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Don, for all of
Thank you.
Neil, who's next? You're on mute again, Neil.
Kevin Kelly is next.
Kevin,
Hello, can you hear me?
you can.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. I really want to thank you for doing this as well. And I actually had set up just a couple points I wanted to make. And one of them was, in fact, to suggest or really hopefully create a chorus of demand for a regularly scheduled town hall meeting where there actually is a give and take. I heard that you were going to respond to these later, which I think is great for tonight. But I really want, what I would hope to see is that there's an ongoing dialogue where the public can question what's going on and expect answers both from the police commission as well as the the chief. And I want to also say congratulations to Chief Lucchese. And I look forward to seeing how that works out. I know that this is a big challenge, all the different aspects of what's going on. So that one's covered already. I also agree with and have heard many people say that it would also be a good idea to have a forum that's not in the police commission forum, because some people are really very concerned about speaking to within the presence of the police about the police. I don't obviously share that concern, as you all know. So anyway, I want to move on to the next one. We have obviously an ongoing complaint that's been lodged, and the officer was put on administrative leave immediately. And in the past, I know 2 complaints that I know of that were formally filed. One for excessive force and a second one for a false affidavit on an accusatory instrument. In both of those cases, no interim action was taken, and then no information was shared with the public about an investigation. Of course, that's related to 50A, which I'll get to. And of course, that there was no wrongdoing found. Now, I've got 30 seconds left. What I would like to know is this a new approach because of the new chief? Is there a reasoning behind the immediate administrative leave? Does it have to do with the gravity of the complaint, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I guess I've reached the end of my time. And so I just want to point out that I really would like to see a more open and transparent complaint, investigation, and findings thing where we know how you came to the conclusion, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. I just want to say 2 things, and I know the board agrees with me here. We hear really, really clearly the desire for a place for folks to speak about their concerns about the police without the police present. So we hear that request loud and clear, so that's something that we heard. The second item, no, I don't remember. Let's go to the next speaker, Neil.
Tanya Marquette.
Yes, hi. I'm going to read my statement here. Hopefully it's under 3 minutes. My statement is more general than some of the other comments. And these are just introductory, notes or thoughts, as much work really needs to be done to bring in community voices with equity on resolving these problems. Okay. I find it most significant that we're still dealing with the aftermath of the Paul Eccles case concerning police brutality against the young black man. Being a close follower of that case, the problem appeared escalated by the police themselves, who were less than transparent in their testimonies. Seven of them were there at the trial, and reading their seven of them were there on site during the incident, and reading their reports and listening to their testimony. Expectation was they would slide through this case, as they so often did, with transparency and some blatant lies. Bookending this 2019 case ongoing, we see on an almost daily basis the reaction of a police institution that obviously feels it can mete out increasing violence against black people in particular, as we see shootings and killings of black men for no reason other than they are there, often in their own neighborhoods. It is not unnoticed that the Governor's Executive Order 203 appears lifted from the shared decision-making playbook that was used to create a structurally different way of including parents, community, as well as school staff in a process that enabled other voices to help direct better choices to deal with racism in the school district. This history affords us a model to adopt here. Considering the fact that racism is a problem of white supremacy and white skin privilege, let me note from over 40 years of working on the problem that white people are just not in a position to assess their own manifestations of racism, no matter how well-meaning they may think they are, much less can they create solutions in this regard. We believe and note that it is critical that people of color and their working allies with experience dealing with this problem must be consulted, their work studied, and their leadership followed for creating corrected structures that can and will guide new training and behaviors for a completely new structure for, securing safety. I would hope this would engender some trust being built in lieu of the vacuum and fear that exists amongst people of color for police in this community. We also recognize that given the significant expense of this very inefficient and prejudiced institution and the current budget limitations, this is a golden opportunity for restructuring the use of funds for correcting the very conditions in people's lives that can result in behaviors considered illegal. I would hope you take these notes seriously in the endeavor to apply the power of Executive Order 203, which directs the town to work with all stakeholders on this problem that has telescoped through the past 400 years of enslavement and abuse of people of color, and the way that policing developed specifically gold to contain and control people of color using tactics of terrorism which have not changed much over this time. And using racism to create fear and divisiveness in the white community is equally part of this racism in order to promote more policing with increasing monies poured into this terrorism and ongoing fear-mongering. I'm going to stop here because I think I'm going to run out of time. So the only thing I would end with is that this is the moment to seize to work on creating meaningful structural changes. We have the empowerment and the mandate from the state to do it, which is no small thing. If not now,
your time has run out. You able to finish your remarks? Okay. I do want to just, the other thing I wanted to add is that Chief Lucchese, before this meeting, has specifically requested more of the give and take that Kevin had asked for on a monthly basis, that he would make himself available for that. So that's something that I think we can look forward to, regular interactions with the police in a less formal setting. Okay, who's next, Neil?
Eve and Jennifer Pop.
Video too.
You want to be on video?
Yes.
Hey, Eve and Jennifer.
Oh no. Hello. Sorry about that. First of all, I do want to say thank you to everybody here putting this on and putting this together and letting us speak. I had wrote a piece today that I put on the New Paltz Facebook page, and I just wanted to be given my chance to read it with everything going on in the current circumstances. As a trans woman, I would like to take a minute to help understand why the recent rap video from uniformed New Paltz police officer Robert Sisko was so offensive and harmful to the trans community, the non-binary community, the intersex community, and in general. I do not speak for the entire community. I speak for myself. Saying there are only two genders is simply not true. As someone who teaches science, I can attest that throughout the biological world, sex and gender are not exclusively binary. It is scientifically accepted and defined that gender exists on the continuum or spectrum. The internet is filled with resources from leading medical experts and doctors on the subject. Katie Couric presented a documentary called Gender Revolution, featuring experts and a wealth of accessible information on gender. Bill Nye has a YouTube video titled Sexuality and Gender Spectrum, under 3 minutes long. So much information is available. Please take the time to check out these resources. Stating there are only two genders invalidates and dismisses trans, intersex, and non-binary people. Incorrectly stating that gender is binary is a deliberate tactic used by people to deny our existence. It is popular among certain experts, or non-experts, I should say, including J.K. Rowling. Stating that gender is binary is akin to telling a gay couple that only one type of love exists, heterosexual love between a male and a female. Today, we know that is not true. Gay couples love openly, and science confirms that throughout the biological kingdom, homosexuality is a normal, occurring part of life. Laughing, saying that only boys have a penis and only girls have a vagina is transphobia. It implies trans women will never be women, and that trans men will never be men. It questions and undermines individuals' identities in a harmful and derogatory way. And it denies the existence of trans and non-binary people. The language and rhetoric is used to dismiss us and to erase us. We face it daily. It's even happening at the federal level. I know the issue of trans, non-binary, intersex may be new and may be difficult to understand for people. But all we are doing is asking to be allowed to live our lives as who we are. When we see a cop in uniform in a police car saying there are only two genders, it shows that even the people meant to protect us do not believe we are real. Violence against trans and non-binary people is a very real thing. Just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean it doesn't affect us. I ask you to consider the rate of suicide for transgender teens. Some numbers say 40% have tried it, almost half. Transphobia kills. Is that number high enough for you to do some research or talk to one of us? See, we exist. We exist as individuals, as a community. I personally hope Officer Sisko will grow from this experience. I hope this will be a wake-up call for him to see his words have power and affect people. Hell, I'd be willing to go for a burger and a beer with Officer Sisko. Let him know how deeply his words have hurt and how hard I personally had to fight to get to this point in my life, alive and out. I would rather educate than fight. Part of me thinks he feels the same. The trans community and beyond did not ask for this. It was thrust upon us, and now some people think we are the bad ones. I'm just here to exist and live my life as we all are. Happy Pride.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Neil, who is our next speaker? You have to unmute yourself, Neil.
Maggie Veed is next.
Maggie V.
Hi, obviously I'm not Maggie Beve, that's my wife who's here.
I'm here and I'd like to make a statement also, but I'll take my turn after.
And we have 3-minute typed statements, so we will be efficient with our time. I am Edgar Rodriguez from Concerned Parents of New Paltz, which is a group that has advocated for racial justice and structural changes in many institutions of our town over 30 years. This is part of a historical struggle that starts first with local Lenape and Sokas people and followed by the African slaves who built New Paltz and memorialized with the personal history of Sojourner Truth, who argued her own legal case in Kingston Court to free her son. We object to the town board being responsible for implementing new policing laws, orders, procedures, and policies. Because you failed in every possible way when you had the opportunity almost 2 years ago in the police brutality case of Paul Eccles, a 22-year-old African-American young man. You selected to protect the offending police officer to save some small change, and now you confront a federal lawsuit that will cost the taxpayer major money. You buried an independent police commission report finding use of excessive force on Paul, and then disbanded the commission that still does not function today. Instead, concerned parents fought you every inch of the way and was able to, with their attorney, Michael Sussman, to find Paul innocent in a jury trial in the New Paltz Town Court of bogus charges by our police. Now we go to federal court, where we reimagine a new public safety system in ours that requires new leadership. In fact, some people think that given the history of the town board, that all of you should resign to give the community an opportunity to elect 5 new board members who presumably will be better prepared than you. While we await your resignation decision, the next best thing is for the community to organize a self-selection election process that would allow stakeholder groups from youth, people of color, LGBTQ, students, senior citizens, religious sector, etc., to pick their representation for a new civilian review commission and a task force to plan the funding, refunding of new groups and the restructuring of public safety by eliminating the police department. Instead, we would depend more on state police, Ulster County Sheriff's Office, and New Paltz Police. But more important would be community policing. This representation will be independent of political appointments, and instead of each stakeholder group would meet in public, select their own representation. You would sanction this process and facilitate it in every possible way. This process actually occurred in our school district about 14 years ago, which was mandated by the New York State Education Department. We can share documentation of this innovative approach. The governor and the masses have asked to reimagine and reinvent policing, and concerned parents is on the move to make structural and meaningful change for a new public safety system in New Paltz. Anyone with questions can call me, Edgar, at 255-9652. Thank you. Maggie.
Thank you, Edgar. Maggie, are we going to hear from you now?
Well, I'd like to take a full 3 minutes later, so I'll raise my hand again.
Neil, yep, that's fine. That's fine, Maggie.
Okay, thank you.
Neil, who's next?
Oh, that's okay. Why do I have to take 30 seconds? 30 seconds.
Neil? You're on mute again. Neil, who's next? Who's next on?
Donstead?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having this community forum. I just want to read a couple of things. I'm pretty sure I'm under 3 minutes. The Police Commission traditionally consists of a board of civilian citizens representing the members of this community. The commission should have a basic knowledge of the functions of law enforcement policy, procedures. Having a law enforcement background could be an attribute, but is not required. It is also a position by which an individual applies for and is chosen by the majority of vote by the town board. In years past, functions of the Police Commission was viewed as supervisory role, not to be confused with micromanaging the police department. At present, you, the New Paltz Town Board, has positioned yourself as the Police Commission. Hence, you are also the supervisor employer of the police department. It should not be one of the same. And I would like you to tell this community, albeit not tonight, how do you justify having those two positions? During this meeting tonight, those two positions were interchanged as your members were speaking. And also the governor has strongly, put out the new, like Tanya mentioned it, I forget the code, but the local communities to demand certain expectations, behaviors, etc. of the local police department. That being said, the New Paltz Police Commission should be restored to the citizens of this community through the proper process, and I'd like to know if you will support that. I served on the Police Commission for almost 9 years while Chief Snyder was made chief and while Lucchese was there as well. I joined under the encouragement of Carol Roper and Mr. Cahill. And as a woman of color, as a member of this community, and as a member of law enforcement, I'm fully aware of what the do's and don'ts are with the police commission. And it's my encouragement that the town board will separate themselves and properly convene a new police commission. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Neil?
Tricia Bowen.
Tricia?
Yep, I'm here. Hold on. Unmuting.
Sorry, that took me a while, Tricia.
No, that's all right. So the New York State just passed the STAT Act that allows us to collect data on each police officer, what arrest was made, who made it, who was the person targeted. My question is, are we going to make that sort of retroactive to begin from previous complaints so that we can have like a report? So I don't want us to start with like a clean slate right now. I want us to go back a couple of years to see what has transpired in the police department so we can assess what our officers are doing in the community. That's it.
Thank you, Tricia.
Nate Liebert.
Hey, how's it going? Say I wrote a little something. There's obviously a pattern of shielding police from any sort of accountability for their wrongdoings in America today. With unarmed, good black folks being murdered by the police daily, it's rare to see a cop get more than a slap on the wrist. New Paltz has not been an exception to this. In 2018, you defended a cop who assaulted an already injured and handcuffed Paul Eccles. Since then, our Town Citizen Review Board was forced to disband before it could provide the findings that they found under Law 50A, which has now been repealed due to the movements of the people to demand justice by any means necessary. There's so much misconduct that happens in your police department on a daily basis, and recent video of Rob Sisko is evidence of the dangerous culture present in the police department. As a non-binary person, I don't trust the police. I don't want to rebuild that trust. I want defunding. There is already a lot of damage done to the community when police do their jobs the way they're supposed to. Regularly harassing and ticketing people for smoking weed or open containers does not benefit the community in any way, other than by stealing money from an already poor population of students, many of whom are in great debt, many of whom can barely afford rent. And this is where the majority of the police's time goes towards in this town. Due to the levels of sexual harassment exhibited by police and dismissive tendencies towards real crime, it is clear that there will not be a reestablishment of trust between domestic abuse victims and sexual harassment victims. My question is not, what will you do about this? My question is, are you going to take the voices of the most seriously marginalized in our community and defund the police, or will you fall on the wrong side of history as we inevitably take things into our own hands? We are demanding, not asking, for the process of defunding the police to begin, for the reinstatement of a civilian review board, and for regular outdoor town halls open to the public to discuss policing without the presence of police, Will you be doing your job and answering to the demands of the people, or are we going to have to do this ourselves?
Thank you, Nate. Neil?
Michael. Let's see, I have.
Michael with an exclamation point, if that's your.
Hi. Yes. I think that personally, I think the money spent in for the New Paltz Police Department would be better used for social programs, specifically directed towards the New Paltz Youth Program, which has to essentially beg stores to put up coin cans to collect money for vans and basic services, and hold garage sales for their funding. I think the police department's money would be better used there. However, if we must have a police department, I think we should reinstate a separate and independent police commission. Just as you guys have a separate planning board and zoning board, the police should absolutely be separate from you guys, the town board. And I believe that Officer Sisko should be disciplined and fired. And I would have to voice some kind of skepticism that unless, you know, it was from these great community members who brought this to the attention of the community, that this would be investigated rather than just, you know, go under the rug. So I'm a little I'm glad that we're having this, and I'm glad that this is happening, but I am still viewing it from a side of skepticism that something good will come of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Alex Wojcik.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions that are like, you know, asks, and I know this is not a back and forth, but take some notes. So first I would like to, you know, really urge town board and the police commission, which are the same thing, to, you know, please host a different kind of forum in which there would be an opportunity for people to be able to ask questions and make comments and share stories on behalf of people who cannot make it or do not feel comfortable speaking on these issues for myriad really valid reasons, and for, you know, such an event to have a way for people to also submit comments in advance, much like the you know, community conversations on COVID-19 that the village board and the town board did together. I think that's really, really important. There's no way, I have a lot of stories that people have been giving to me. There's no way I could share them in 3 minutes. It just isn't right. But I would like to be that conduit for my friends and neighbors. Ask number 2, please provide the community with the full, you know, New Paltz Police Department budget with lines broken out, and have one town hall just about that. It shouldn't be so hard for us to figure out, you know, what should be easy math. There's no reason for this to be, you know, so difficult. And that would be a really great educational event. I know all of us would be there, and we could all learn so much. Ask 2 part B. So please also in that event tell us how much, you know, state aid goes to the police department, if any, county aid, any shared services, and also cover, you know, future dream expenses. You know, let's really have a real conversation about money, so that we can then have a conversation about defunding. 3, please create a real citizen police commission with real full access to records as needed. There's nothing holding anyone back now. You know, 50A was repealed. You know, go for it. Let's do it. Ask number 4, you know, tell us what you need to give us the true transparency and real accountability that we the people deserve. 5, tell us what you need, you know, the whole community, what you need from us to work towards defunding New Paltz Police Department and reinvesting in resources that our community so clearly needs. And then ask number 6, please tell us how you'll actually address the transphobic hate speech that was shared by Officer Cisco the other day, because I'm pretty sure that represents a bigger problem. You know, Ernest Hemingway was all about, you know, the tip of the iceberg. I think this is a tip of the iceberg thing. One would not feel empowered to share hate speech while in uniform if there were not an underlying issue, and that needs to be addressed. There are too many of us feeling not good right now, and too many people have been feeling no trust in the first place. So we really need to work on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex, for all those questions. Again, we'll be addressing questions for folks who are new onto this call. We'll be addressing questions in transcript form and kind of list all the questions and provide answers where that's possible as expeditiously as possible. Thank you, Alex, for all those questions. Who's next?
Wait, I mean, the other thing, I mean, we probably should have mentioned it in the beginning, but it's on the, I thought it was on the agenda. If people have comments, they can email them to the clerk at the town of New Paltz, and they will be addressed as well. So you can send comments in clerk@townofnewpaltz.org, and we'll add them to this as well. Next is Maggie.
Mag, you're still muted. Hang on 1 second.
I'm hitting the unmute.
Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, I like all of us on this panel, I'm sure, on this forum. We're outraged with the with the police and town behavior in the Paul Eccles case, and now even more outraged by the callous murder of George Floyd and the pattern of continuing violence his murder represents. We've all borne witness that his death has unveiled and highlighted systemic failures of policing policy and procedures that are directly responsible for alarmingly disproportionate rates of police intervention in communities of color and for a long string of abuses perpetuated against people of color. We're here tonight because the town board is now required by state executive order to explore the institutional racism that necessarily is inherent in the brutality we've seen locally and nationally. As the publicly elected governing board conferred with the responsibility of establishing and monitoring public agreements that respond to these demands, one should expect the town board to take proactive measures and commit to following the principles and practices such as those espoused by BlackLivesMatters.org and 0%. These are leaders in the policing reform community. To not do so, to not follow these tenets, would be in itself an act of institutional racism and an act of white privilege. Consequently, the following should immediately occur. Immediately contact state, county, and SUNY police contractual authorities to work with the town on developing a plan to consolidate, restructure, and refocus policing efforts to eliminate our town police department. As town residents, we pay for the personal safety and protection of property with town and county and state taxes. You should push for getting our fair share of that service, and that should follow, those services of the county and the state should follow tenets of community policing here locally. This would be improved quality of service at the county and the state level. Establish budget priorities consistent with differentiating the role of police safety versus the role of security, the security needs of the community. That is, housing security, food security, mental health security, versus the safety of our personal property and our personal well-being. Establish a town commission on equity in policing, charged with developing policies and procedures consistent with community policing tenets and town board policies. It's basically making sure that a police commission is changed completely so that it's in the hands of a commission that is independent and self-selected, with members that represent all aspects and all entities and stakeholders. Share the current contractual agreement between the town and the New Paltz Police Department and ensure informed community consent prior to establishing future contracts. Share the nature of data collected and reports on town's possession of the town's police's use of force. And I'd say last but not least, and this is not an inclusive list, but end the use of military-grade equipment in town policing. There's no reason why we should anticipate that if there's a group of people who are getting wild and rowdy, that we should expect that the military use of military-grade equipment will be at our disposal. I don't know what kind of resources there are available to the police that are military-grade, but we should explore what they are and try to eliminate them.
Thank you, Maggie. That's 3 minutes. Is that okay to end there? Is there any final comment you want to make?
No, I just thank you for having this forum, and I agree with the idea that there should be regularly scheduled forums where the community can interact with the town about this, about policing.
Thank you, Maggie.
No, thank you.
Yeah, Neil.
Michelle Zip.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, yes, for having this forum. I have more questions than I have answers. I think it's important for us to come up with answers and solutions as a community. Mostly, I also feel the comments made by Officer Cisco encourage violence against women as well as transphobic comments, and these are things that we need swift action, and I feel more needs to be done immediately regarding his dismissal and not just have him be on administrative leave and paid. I also don't know exactly what does the police commission currently do, who attends these meetings. Is the entire town board there? Do they go to all the meetings? So I think knowledge of knowing, not just myself, but other people I've spoken to do not have this knowledge of exactly what exactly does the police commission do. And so moving forward, I think it'd be helpful to have more facts and as well as the opinions and thoughts of each of the people involved in the police commission, as well as just more transparency. I think what we need to do is just, we need to defund, demilitarize, and really reimagine the police department, and through a police commission that is reflective of those in our community. And so just really look at how we can reallocate funds to other services that are really desperately in need. And I think that's the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, it's clear we're not going to be able to answer all the questions that are coming up here, because some of them, as Michelle has correctly said, they're questions for all of us to answer. So we'll be taking note of all the questions, keeping them, and questions that are not able to be clearly answered, we'll be bringing to community forums as questions that are still outstanding that we need to address. Thank you. Neil?
Tim Rogers.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to share an idea that I've only been thinking about in the last couple of days after speaking with Chief Lucchese. This is a very challenging time, and I feel like, if we're gonna, think about like what can we do as individuals or as individual elected officials, the village board has a responsibility. We've struggled with, how to have laws in terms of possession of marijuana enforcement, whether someone's parked too close to a driveway, noise ordinances. And, these are laws that, and I think, one of the younger folks on the call mentioned, sometimes this ends up in a very uncomfortable situation where the police are trying to enforce laws that the village board has created. And, I just think we probably need to do a better job as local elected officials to make sure whatever laws we have on the books are not putting pressure on our citizens. And, what I'm trying to do right now is just look in the mirror and take responsibility, and what can I do as an elected official to make things better for my constituents? Because, I think Chief Lucchese wants to take a hard look at his department. But I also feel like the legislators, on the town board and the village board, we can take a harder look at our laws that are on our books. And I just wanted to throw that out there that, we need some help. We get a lot of noise complaints, and neighbors want us to do a better job of enforcing laws. And there's a serious push and pull between enforcement and not, making it unnecessarily uncomfortable or creating really awful situations for our constituents. So I'm just throwing this out there as something that we need to do better at as local elected officials.
Thank you, Tim. I think that goes, the town board would agree with you on that. This is not just about the police. This is all about our entire municipality, and looking and seeing where we need to serve our people in a more equitable and just way. So thank you for that. Neil, who else?
Juna Kean.
Hello. Sorry, I didn't realize that would happen so fast. Hi, my name is Juna. I want to start by saying that I'm not here for the police, and I think that this same forum should happen, but without the police, because very implicitly in having them present, it's an underlying assumption that the town and the police are that the town endorses the police, and I think we can't have change if that is occurring at all levels, including that the commission is the board. We are, as a town, spending far too much money right now on the police. It's almost 40% of the budget. And while things like the preschool by Duzine, it got shut down, I think that it's, when we're talking about safety, it's pretty clear what is being prioritized, and it's not kids' lives and it's not people's lives. If we're taking money away from education, we're taking money, somebody already mentioned the youth place, the NPYP, like that isn't being funded. Instead, we're funding police who protect property. And I think another thing that I want to bring up is that in the revenue for 2020, $300,000 were allocated for fines and bail, forfeited bail. And those are in practice basically a tax that comes out on poor people and people of color. And I think as a town, we should be working to decrease the amount of money that people are paying for fines and in bail. I agree with what other people have said as well, that we're over-policed as a town. We have the campus police, the county sheriff, the state police, and the town police. Why does a municipality that's like, you know, I think I've seen between like 11,000 and 14,000 people have that many different police forces policing us? Again, stand in support of people who are calling for the New Paltz Police Department to be completely shut down. And the way to start that is by radically defunding them.
Thank you, Juna. Neil, who's next?
Jane Schomburg.
Jane.
Having trouble unmuting people here.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'm unmuted now.
Great.
Thank you. I think it's great that we're having these forums, and I'm sure that they're going to go on for a while, and I think at this very difficult and emotional time, they're very important for everybody to hear. But I would like to know from the town board what the timeline and the structural plan is for fulfilling the mandate that the governor has given to sit down and for the community, the municipal government, and the police, who are also stakeholders in this, to decide when we are going to be making these changes, how we are going to come up with them, what the means will be, who will be doing that, and when we will get results, and whether it will be, there will be a referendum afterwards, or what the form of acceptance for those results will be. I'm throwing that out there, and I hope that we can get that all down so that this idea goes forward as we work, because we can go around and around and tell our stories and do all that, but eventually we have to have a result so that we can get the funding that hopefully the Grim Reaper will give us by April 1st. And then we can have, you know, go along that way, and we won't have to have economic pain after all the death and woes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Neil, who's next?
That is it for right now. If anyone has any comments, they should.
Two participants just raised their hand. And Diana, are you looking to speak again? Diana's got her hand up again. Is there anyone else who has not spoken first before we get everyone in? We saw two hands just raised.
There's an iPhone who would like to speak.
Hello, did I, oh, sorry, it doesn't have a name for me. My name is Harper Keene, and I just wanted to second what people have said about defunding the police. It just seems like if neighboring towns get by on 6 or 7% of their budget going to the police, it's ridiculous how much we're spending, and I don't think we should stop at 6 or 7%. I think we should just eliminate the police and replace it with services that are better designed to fulfill all of the functions that the police currently serve. I'm also interested and would love to talk with anybody who is working on this about seeing what the actual police calls are day to day. I found some online statistic that said there is 0.72 crimes per day. I don't know where that's coming from, but you know, there's been a lot of questions about, can we even imagine a world where there's no police? And the fact is that for most of us in this wealthy white community, or the segments of it that are wealthy and white, that is already how we live. I already live in a world where there's very little policing, and I don't think that it should be just us who get to live like that. Anyway, I would like to talk with anybody who's interested in defunding the police, and having a hard time finding out who those people are. And so just, you can email me at hkeen@gmail.com, KEEHN. And I'm sure there's already better groups that are set up, but I would love to talk with anybody. Thank you. That's the rest of my time.
Thank you. Neil, so let's make sure everyone's got a voice. I know some people would like to speak again, but let's make sure everyone gets a chance to speak at least once.
Gabrielle Wood.
Hi, yeah. Hope everyone is well. I just wanted to voice my own opinion, as well as talk about survey results that I've collected from the citizens of New Paltz, over 50 past and present residents. So I'm just gonna start out by saying that I believe this town is so disgustingly over-policed, and it's obvious to even people who do not live here, who are of conservative and pro-police mindsets, as soon as they enter this town, that it is so over-policed. It is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, that's just my opinion. What I would like to share is that I have collected over 50 survey results from New Paltz constituents regarding their experiences with policing in New Paltz, both with NPPD and UPD, as well as the sheriff's office and plainclothes officers. And these instances are so wild and just absolutely ridiculous. Instances in which like teenagers were criminalized for extremely nonviolent conduct, pulling pranks, smoking pot, playing music too loud, as well as more unbecoming conduct by officers with regards to gender identity, LGBTQ issues, race, class, as well as the generalization of college students in New Paltz as being troublemakers and unwelcome, and as if we are not part of this community, and we are. So I have those on hand. If anyone wishes to read them, they can send me an email. I would drop my email if the chats weren't muted. But yeah, that's my piece. I yield my time.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Chief Goodnow.
I just wanted to call in and give my support for the police. And while I think there's a good conversation that needs to take place regarding change for the future, violence, I responded to thousands of emergencies by our officers and had very little issues. Professional courteous never encountered a racial or gender bias type issue. I do think that we have to have a conversation to start to look towards the future of, what the future of policing in the world is. And as you guys know, I do think we working alongside them every day.
Is everyone hearing Matt in a difficult way?
Yes.
Not really hearing you so well, Matt. Is it possible you can get to a better zone and we can have you speak again? A lot of your words are getting lost.
Yes, sir. I'll go back.
Okay, let's get you back on. Let's get you back on. Neil, who's next?
Billy.
Hi, I'm Billy Rittenhouse. I don't really have anything prepared, but I was just hoping for Chief Lucchese. I'm afraid I don't know how to pronounce your last name. And the other chief we just had on, Mr. Goodnow, if they would be able to comment on the fact that Officer Cisco just put out anti-Semitic images on his Instagram. I think that should be a big part of this conversation.
Holy shit.
Thank you, Billy. Yeah, we're not going to make comments, especially on that situation right now. but thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Let's see. Chief, good now. We try to see if we can hear you now.
How do you hear me now, Neil?
That's better. It's still a little fuzzy, but we can give it a try. And just so everyone's aware, Chief Goodnow is a fire chief, and the rescue chief is not the police chief.
So, like I said, I just wanted to call in and give my support to the police, and I think we have to have a large conversation about what the future of policing is and relationships with the police in the community, which, in my opinion, we have a strong one in our community, and we're lucky. You know, I think by no means is defunding the police any sort of answer to the situations. I've responded to thousands of emergencies with the officers in New Paltz, and seen no issues regarding race or gender identity issues. You know, there's bad apples in every area, and I think that right now, unfortunately, all police are getting dragged down by bad apples throughout the police force. Well, I have said before, I do think that we need to look, you know, at increasing funding to places like the rescue squad and stuff like that. I strongly agree with that, but I think taking funding away from the policing and New Paltz because of the concerns we're having worldwide is not exactly the answer. We have good cops, we have a good chief, they have good community relationships, and while issues and incidents are going to happen, taking the funding away and cutting the force isn't going to help. That's just my opinion as Matthew Goodnow, a concerned citizen. I fully support the police. The rescue squad fully supports their police, and that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Chief Goodnow. Neil, who else is up?
Renee Hack.
Renee?
Hi. I just want to point something out about the term defunding in the phrase defunding the police. For some, it appears to mean total eradication of financial investment in a police organization. For me, it has, and for others as well, it has more to do with setting aside certain kinds of experiences that people may have that ordinarily would be under a police domain, but might much more appropriately be, for example, with a social worker, a mediator, an alcohol counselor, for example. That is at the top of the list, I think, of many people who are trying to reimagine what policing is. So it's become, for me, a word that is losing, that means something different depending on who you are.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for your comments. Neil?
Richard de Ortiz.
Richard.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Heil de Ortiz, but you were very close. That's okay. Just a couple of things that I want to point out. Some of these have been mentioned already, but I want to underscore them. Well, first I want to start out by sharing, you know, that I grew up here, so I've lived here a good long time. I've seen the police department and policing evolve significantly. I do feel that we are over-policed here in New Paltz. We have 4 different overlapping policing entities, and that just seems overkill to me. I also want to share that my son is Black and grew up in this community, and about 3 years ago, actually about 4 years ago, he's in the Army now, we were in a conversation about policing, and I think it might have been in the wake of Eric Garner. There was a national event that led us to that discussion. And he said to me that he hated when SUNY ended, when the spring semester ended. And what I thought he was going to share with me, that he hated that because friends left, or because, you know, the bars were empty on Friday night or something like that. But what he shared with me is that he felt suddenly conspicuous when the semester ended. And as a young Black man, felt self-conscious and conspicuous just walking down Main Street. That both made me angry and it made me sad, because I really loved this place, and that he had to feel that way. And I think we need to really think about that as a community, because I don't believe he's the only person who feels that way. You know, police are designed to protect and serve us. And I think the concept of public service certainly in the most recent video and some other things, that concept of public service is really lost. I think we're at the tipping point where it doesn't feel like the police are necessarily here to protect and serve us, but in some ways they're here to oppress us or to keep us in line. And that makes me really uncomfortable. So I'm hoping that we can address this and solve this. I do support having an independent police commission. I don't think the circular nature of having the town board be the commission works any longer. So looking forward to some changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Neil.
Matteo Undisi.
Matteo?
Hi, thank you for the time. My name is Matteo. I'm a long-term resident, and like many people on this call, I'm a concerned citizen. I'm here to learn and to listen, and as a licensed mental health professional, I would like to engage in any opportunity to assist or support or be a member of a civilian coordinated review committee for policing. And as we have just heard, we also need to review what's happening with fire and rescue. That all services through the municipality need to meet the needs of all of the residents, and we need to do that in a way that honors people's individual and collective experiences and recognizes the very unique needs of different populations. So I look forward to more opportunities for that. I am concerned that this Zoom forum and relying on Facebook or Instagram is not a suitable way to get full access and participation of all citizens. So I would like to really invite the town board and folks who have the opportunity to consult with some of the best practices that are used in municipalities across the country to create general polling and data collection that can be universally accessed and also provided in language that is clear and accessible to people of different linguistic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and technological backgrounds, including paper and pencil, as well as email and online forms. My last comment specific is about predatory policing. So as you've heard from so many community members, and I really want to thank all our neighbors for speaking up, we have really what seems to be aggressive enforcement at certain times. And I've observed over the years here a lot of predatory policing when it comes to speed traps and traffic enforcement. And as far as I know, as a community member, we don't have such a high level of immediate safety and threat to our way of life here in New Paltz and to the wellness of our visitors and friends because of people driving 5 miles over the hour or over the speed limit. So I would invite us to think collectively about ways that speed and traffic enforcement is managed in other communities and other countries using telecamera, video and radar. You do not need to have an armed police officer to register the velocity of a vehicle and to send a ticket or summons or warning to the registrant of that vehicle. And it would reduce the potentially life-threatening interactions that can happen when police officers are interacting with civilians who are just driving along their way and maybe just, going a little bit too fast through a back road or trying to commute or go to work. And so I want to really suggest that we use technology in the same way that we can use technology to include all of our voices. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Matteo. Neil, who's next?
Tatiana?
Tanya, can you help me? Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Barbara, Tatiana's mom. Can you hear me okay? Can someone say yes? Okay, great. So, I think this is a really difficult time for so many people, and it crosses over so many different groups. And I'd like to say that there are many times when I personally have been helped by the police. One time there was a fire going on and near where my home was, and police came to my door and let me know that we needed to vacate our neighborhood. There are many times when police have been helpful, but there are also times when they were not helpful. I want the police to know that we're in a new paradigm now, and the New Paltz police, they should be on notice that you cannot be violent with citizens of New Paltz or visitors of New Paltz. You cannot punch someone who's in handcuffs. Those days are over. And we need to make sure that people understand that we want to validate the police for the good things they do. And we need to let them know that there are things that are simply unacceptable. Police, whether you have the police department, whether it is a young person or an old person, people need re-education. People need to have some basic training, and some of the skills that are lacking, they need to be instituted. Even Pat Ryan, our county executive, has said that after a protest on the Mid-Hudson Bridge, he was astounded that military equipment were being used to stop a peaceful protest. I agree with this. Has been said before. I don't need to keep going over it. I wanted to help that people to understand that we do need to discuss what does that mean to defund the police. There's probably 10 different ways of interpreting that statement. It doesn't mean tearing apart the entire police budget. It's asking for a new paradigm. Some of that money could perhaps go to reinstitute preschool services. We used to have preschool education in New Paltz. We don't have it anymore. We should have it. There are many families who need to send their children to a free universal pre-K. We don't have it here. We need to have it. And the police, I would appreciate if they would go out and talk to small groups, hear from people from different areas, from different age groups, from different backgrounds. And I also agree that traffic stops, I don't understand the necessity. I'd like to understand what kind of budget or what kind of revenue comes from all these traffic stops. I would rather see the police doing something else. Okay, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you for holding this.
Neil?
Dylan is next.
Hi. So I don't really have much prepared right now, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass at this moment. But first off, I want to start with acknowledging my positionality. I'm talking as a trans person, a trans person with some mental disabilities, but I'm also talking as a white person. And let me tell you that I have my whiteness already working for me, and yet I still feel such a high level of fear and distrust. I cannot walk down Main Street without some sort of harassing comment, threat, sexual provocative thing thrown at me. And I do not reach out to the police. Most of the people that I'm friends with, most of the people that I organize with in my community, in my queer trans community, do not reach out to the police, okay? And there are plenty of people who never had this trust and who don't want to rebuild it. And that's something we need to acknowledge, because I've been hearing a lot of talk about rebuilding trust, but that is on the side of the people to decide if they're going to rebuild that trust. That is not something you can force. And I think something that's really relevant also is the mental health services. We really don't have any mental health services that do not rely on cops. I also can't reach out to a lot of mental health services because I'm afraid that I might say the wrong thing and next thing you know, there's a cop at my door. And I just want to say, honestly, how dare you tote around with a pride flag and autism awareness memorabilia when your actions do not show the same? And no, it is not just a couple bad apples. To that person who said that you don't see injustices, maybe that's because you're in a position of power and you're not actually experiencing the injustices, so how could you tell? It is not just a couple bad apples. It's the entire tree. Who is hiring these bad apples? Who is protecting them? Who is complicit in cases of injustice? Who is dismissive of people who reach out? Which officers enforce unjust laws that criminalize vulnerable communities instead of actually helping them? The answer is every single one. That is all I have to say. Goodbye.
Thank you, Dylan. Neil, who's next?
JB.
JB.
I'm trying to unmute now, sorry.
Hey, thanks for having me. So I'm probably going to be devil's advocate here, but we have to look at the facts. And I'm going to preface it with saying in no way, shape, or form do I have the same views as Officer Rob Cisco. But first and foremost, defunding your police station, that's just putting a Band-Aid where a stitch would be needed. That's not going to be your immediate cause. It all comes down to training at the root cause. You have to train appropriately, whether it be physical combat, mentality, so on and so forth, just like the young lady said before. Now, the question I pose to all of you on here is, how many of you have had an opinion that someone didn't agree with or got angered over? How many of you said something that someone got angered over or didn't agree with? How many of you lost your job because of it? That's what I want to know. So we're going to create a witch hunt now to go ahead and, you know, ruin Rob's life. Here's what I'm looking at here. The man is already across news stations. He can't even post anything he wants to, and everything he does for the rest of his life is under scrutiny. Now, being that there are a ton of different folks on this call today, be it transgender, be it, you know, same-sex marriages, even if you align that way, it's all good. I'm sure all of you have been on the receiving end of a witch hunt at one shape and time. And now we're doing the same exact thing to Rob. So at what point is it hypocrisy on its finest scale? Like I said, in ruining a man's life, you are not fixing the problem. All you're doing is impacting one individual who made a mistake. And all of us on this phone have made a mistake. And I think we can all go to bed knowing that tonight. So I look for all of you to look at the facts and just think about, what would you do if you were in Rob's shoes and you made a mistake? You'd want forgiveness and a second chance. That'll be all.
Thank you, JB. We are coming down to the end of our 90 minutes. Want to make sure folks who have not had a chance to speak get a chance to speak. Neil?
Erica Oliver, trying to unmute. Erica Oliver, please.
This is going to be super quick. I have nothing prepared, but I just wanted to respond to the, I think, chief of EMS, because he said that he has never witnessed an act of racism or sexism. I would like to personally share my experience of the New Paltz Rescue Squad coming to my apartment when I was having a mental health crisis. I did not know that cops were going to show up. I didn't need cops there. I didn't want cops there. They made my experience so much worse. And they actively were trying to search my apartment. They were asking me if I was smoking weed while I was having a mental health crisis, trying to search around my apartment. They made comments such as, like, is this your boyfriend's apartment? It wasn't. They made a comment when the EMT asked me for my weight, that you never ask for a woman's weight. What else? I'm a little on the spot right now, but I just want to say that that's, maybe you haven't seen it, but it happens. And let me say, if I was not a white woman, I absolutely would have had my apartment searched. I absolutely would have been arrested. And I literally called for help of a mental health crisis. So just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I consider myself to be in a very privileged position. I can't imagine what people of color feel when they're experiencing a mental health crisis. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that story, Erica. Neil?
Sophia Rose Goodman?
It's Sophie. So David, as someone who stood under shower heads in Poland in 2018, at death camps, toured all the death camps in Poland, I can tell you straightforward that saying right now is not the time to talk about your cops' anti-Semitism is wrong. And that leads to fascism easily. So as someone who lost family in the Holocaust, someone who was raised Jewish their entire life, I'm incredibly offended by you just turning down Billy's comment, not even commenting on it. I feel the same way about how you treated the trans community. It's just a lack of disrespect. We pay bills here, we pay our taxes, and we are met with disrespect and neglect and blatantly ignorance. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I wasn't suggesting Billy's comments weren't relevant. I just was, we're in an internal investigation. We're not able to comment on it at this time. That's all. Thank you. Neil?
Jessa Spohn?
Hi. I just wanted to say a few quick things. First, I wanted to address the anti-Semitic comment. I know Officer Cisco personally, and I know he identifies as Jewish, and he has deep and strong ties to the Orthodox Jewish community. So that's an invalid allegation. Additionally, I am proud to have signed a petition today. Please listen to who this man is. I am going to read this petition real quick. We have almost 700 signees. Officer Cisco has served the New Paltz community honorably for many years and in many capacities. Officer Cisco has served on the Ulster Regional Gang and Narcotics Team for over 5 years, the longest serving officer in New Paltz Police Department history. Officer Cisco has been awarded by the Department of Homeland Security for narcotics investigations, awarded by the Police Chiefs Association for meritorious investigations, awarded by New Paltz Police Department for several long-term narcotics investigations, resulting in the seizure of thousands of dollars in drug money. Officer Cisco serves with care for his fellow human beings and impacts life in our community in a myriad of positive ways. Officer Cisco always selflessly puts the needs of others' needs before his own. Most recently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Officer Cisco personally donated generously to local servers and wait staff. He is also a loving father of 4, an owner of a small business, and he rehabilitates animals. Officer Robert Cisco is an asset to the community. We humbly and respectfully request Officer Cisco to be immediately returned to full duty at the New Paltz Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil, I see a raised hand. Two more
who have not spoke. Everyone else who has your hand raised, I have spoke already. So
yep.
We have Justin Finchel.
Let's hear from Justin and who was
I had Jillian on here, but I think Jillian is off now.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to make a comment. I'm just listening, hearing a lot of people vent, and I think that, that's healthy and probably good to just listen. But I see there's a Cindy Zhao who's like really wants to speak, but I guess doesn't know to raise his hand. So I'm speaking on their behalf because he has a sign up for a while. Let me speak. Let me speak. So I just wanted to.
*9 if you're on, or.
If you're on the phone and you're not in video, you hit *9 to put your hand up. Otherwise, if you're on the screen, go to the participant.
They're holding the sign, let me speak. I guess I don't want anybody to feel like they're silenced, I guess.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Okay, can you find them, Neil? Can you find Cindy?
What's the name?
I thought Justin said Cindy.
Cindy is the name, yeah. It's on the page with Daniel Torres on my screen anyway.
Yeah.
Cindy.
Unmute me.
Cindy, there you go.
On my honor, I will never betray my badge. I will never betray my integrity. On my honor, I will never betray my character. I will never betray the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. So help me God. So my question is, how will Officer Cisco continue to serve when he's broken his sacred oath? That is all.
Thank you. Sorry about not getting to you earlier.
How did not find you sooner? Glad we found you. Neil, anyone else? We're up just past 90 minutes, so we'd like to bring this to a close. This first town hall.
We have one last person, Rosalind.
Rosalind Cherry?
Yeah.
Okay, Rosalind, you'll be the last speaker tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to mention this morning when Governor Cuomo did his daily briefing, he talked about a police reform and reinvention collaborative. And he listed about 20 items.
I couldn't figure out how to get unmuted, so I had to do a lot of yelling.
Really? I could show you. Oh. Am I supposed to speak?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I have to mute this.
I think I did it, Neil. Rosalind, it's your turn to speak. Please start again.
Thank you. This morning, Governor Cuomo talked about public safety as one of the police issues. And the other thing was he had a whole structure for police reform and reinvention collaborative. And it was an amazing list of like 40 different kinds of questions. So I was thinking, when you start to structure what you want to talk about, what the issues are, if you can possibly get a copy of this, it was an amazing list of items to think about. And I thought it would be really, really good to include it in whatever structure that you are going to come up with. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. That was it.
Thank you, Rosalind.
And thank you for bringing that up, because that we did want to mention that. We're going to receive that guidance from the governor, and right now, as a board, we've been discussing using that as a template to move forward. So thank you for bringing that up.
It's an amazing template. Thank you.
And I think you can all expect that this is not going to be a one-shot deal of any kind of welcoming people's views and making sure there are many different forums to receive them. And so thank you for all of the ideas around that. Please forward those ideas if you have specific forums that you'd like to see people be able to connect around these issues. And I think it's also fair to say that anything we do, and it's mandated, it will have representation by the community in everything, and in how we reform, in how we review, in everything we do. This is not going to be behind closed doors, any kind of review of that kind. This is going to be with community representation. If you're interested, let us know. But you will be hearing a lot more about next steps, not just for the police force, but for the reformation of how we're budgeting our funds and how we're supporting people in our community. Thank you all. I think we're going to go on with the meeting. I really appreciate everyone's patience and everyone sharing. Thank you so much, everyone. We have to figure out the delivery method of the transcript and making sure that and the delivery of the comments. I think it's fair to say, Neil, do you have where do we make sure that people can find what we're putting out around this? Is it the town website is the best place to find that, reliably?
Yes, we'll have it all on the town website.
So that's the place. Well, there's a lot of Facebook. There's a lot of different ways out there that people are communicating. But if you want to hear what we're doing and next opportunities, the town website will be the place for you to see upcoming schedule, upcoming events, and things like that related to these issues. Okay? Thank you all so much. Neil, I'm going to hand the meeting back to you. And
okay. Well, so I'd like to we're going to move on to the town board portion of the meeting this evening, and I'd like to having some echo in here, to make a motion to.
Dan, you have to mute everyone. Dan, you got to mute yourself. Yeah.
Right. I'd like to make a motion to open the June 18th, 2020 town board meeting.
David, second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that, I'd like to ask people to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written. I need to make sure the town board members are unmuted. What you guys can do is you can mute yourself and then hold a space bar down, like I did not do well tonight with. But let me, Julie's still muted here. Gotta find her here. And so also, just while I'm looking for Julie's, hey Julie, can you raise your hand and I can unmute you? not physically, but with the computer, it'll be easier for me to find me. And I guess the same thing is, as we move forward, we're going to have different speakers, and we have 2 public hearings tonight as well, and we'll use the same format. If people could raise their hand, we still have 57 participants in the meeting, so it's hard for me to scroll down the whole list and find individuals. So if you would like to speak during the public comment periods for our 2 meetings this evening, please raise your hand. We also have several guests who will be speaking on our MS4 report and the community preservation project plan. And if they could raise their hands, then I can unmute them as well and make them co-hosts so they can present. So Julie. Julie, you, okay, well, did someone second the approval of the agenda?
I second that.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye, great. So, get to the, so I'd like to open the public hearing for weight limits on Old Route 299. May I have a motion to open the hearing?
Second, David. Motion to open the hearing on the weight limits on Old Route
299.
299.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so if anyone has any comments on that, I would ask you to raise your hand. And I think once I make you a co-host, I think you're allowed to unmute yourself. So I will look for Julie here. Any comments on the Old Route 299 increasing or decreasing the weight limit? Okay, with that, this resolution, I'll give it a few more minutes while I look for Julie here.
I think I'm good, Neil.
Oh, great. Okay. So if with that, I'd like to ask one more time if there are any comments for the for this. If not, I would like to, the resolution has been posted on the town website. The resolution amends section 133-2 subdivision A and section 133-5 of the code of the town of New Paltz to include upon the schedule of designated highways appearing within such subdivisions Old Route 299 from its intersection with North Ohioville Road generally westerly to the intersection with the municipal boundary between the town of New Paltz and the town of Lloyd, upon which trucks, tractors, tractor trailers, combinations, and other motor vehicles in excess of the maximum gross weight limit of 10,000 pounds are excluded. May I have a motion to approve the resolution as written?
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution as written.
Second?
Second, Julie.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Can I say something real quick about that?
Sure.
I just wanted, in case anyone wants to know, you know, I believe this was done because of a group of citizens who came to a meeting one day. A lot of them who live on Old Route 299, who spent a lot of time waiting. It would happen to be a meeting that had a lot of people at it. And I just want to thank them for bringing, you know, for doing the right thing for their street and, you know, giving us the knowledge we needed to take this action. So the idea was that a lot of trucks that I think were getting to Lowe's the wrong way, they said, were, you know, going down their street. And unless there's anyone else who had a different understanding, that's, I think I hopefully characterized it correct. But I wanted to thank you the people who came to that meeting and brought this to our attention.
Great. Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to do this as well. So getting ready for the next speakers. So the next item, may I have a motion to open the public hearing for increase in the amount of cost of alternate water supply system, Water District 5.
I'll make that motion. Julie?
David seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the hearing is now open. This resolution has been posted on the town website. In summary, this resolution increases the cost of design, acquisition, and construction of the project to a maximum estimated cost of $11,606,000 and allows for the town board to adopt a serial bond resolution in the aggregate principal amount of $9,231,000 to finance the cost of the project, which together with the serial bond resolution adopted by the town board on July 6, 2016, in the aggregate principal amount of $2,375,000 shall be sufficient to finance the cost of the design, acquisition, and construction of this project. This order shall take effect immediately after we pass this tonight. This is, we're increasing this amount. This is for the construction of Water District 5. The town will be reimbursed 100% for this, but we needed to increase this amount according to our bonding attorney. So, and that's because the cost, we've been waiting a long time to do this because of lots of different issues. Now we need to increase the cost for basically the paperwork and the amount that we're going to get reimbursed. So it's still, the cost to the town taxpayers is still going to be zero for this. And I would like, if anyone has any comments, I would ask them to raise their hands. And we're happy to listen to them. And I'll just make sure that maybe wait another minute or so. I don't want to shut anyone off. Okay, and so with that, one more time. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
I second. Alex?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I have a motion to pass the resolution as posted?
Motion to pass the resolution as posted, David.
Second?
Alex, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So thank you very much. This brings us to the first part of the board meeting. We have a presentation on the town's MS4 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, the Stormwater Management Program Annual Report. And I'm glad to see Ted knows how to take the screen. Thank you, Ted. This is what the town's engineer, Ted Nitza from Walden Engineering. The purpose of this report is to encourage public discussion and participation regarding stormwater quality and the administration of the town's MS4 Stormwater Management Program. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Ted.
Thank you, Neil. I'd say that, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm certainly not an expert with this. I'm sure there's at least 3 or 4
Ted, your voice is going in and out of the internet connection. It's compromised.
snafus that I have during this presentation if I state of my and okay, let me
Neil, before you go on to the presentation, can you make a motion to close
stop
the
my
public hearing?
video. Maybe that'll help.
I don't know if they hear me.
Christy, we heard you. What did you have to say? Could you say that again?
Yeah, if somebody could just make a motion to close the public hearing on Water 5.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on Water 5.
Thank you.
Second.
I think we have to say that. All in favor? Aye. Yep. Okay, is Ted back on?
Yeah, does this sound better, David?
It does.
Okay, great. All right. So you spoke too soon, Neil, with the technical expertise, but I appreciate the compliment. As I was starting to say before, this is an annual requirement of the MS4 program. It goes for storm sewer systems. I'm pleased to be here this evening, for the town in this capacity, and the municipal separate storm sewer system. The acronym used for it is MS4, and it comes from the Clean Water Act. The New York State DEC also is very involved in the program, and its goal is to reduce or prevent pollution at the municipal level, on the residential level, for our stormwater systems. Swales and our waterways. Not to be confused, piping networks that take stormwater away from our areas. And the Wallkill River Watershed Alliance has been a great partner with the town for several years, and they do many of the activities that are required as part of this program. Robert Ferry is the executive director of that community. They do a great job. Many of the things that we're talking about this evening are one way or another tied to this, this organization. The MS4 program has 6 tenets, we'll say, 6 minimum control measures. The first 2 are tied together: public education and outreach, and then also encouraging public involvement and participation. The third item looks for preventing or finding or hunting out illicit discharges, which are improper or harmful connections to the stormwater systems, would introduce pollution into the stormwater swales and structures. The fourth and fifth items are also tied together. The 4 activities that are going on. The measures are put in place, and other contaminants from construction sites getting into our waterways. And then once those structures are built, once those facilities are in place, subdivisions, sure you're checking up and maintaining those stormwater pollution prevention mechanisms to, again, keep the waterways clean. And then the 6th item is a housekeeping issue to make sure that the municipalities themselves are doing the best they can to operate their own systems and functions in a way that supports better stormwater quality. So the first of the minimum control measures is public outreach and education. The town does a number of things with the town website and Facebook pages and other information to get stormwater quality items and information out there. Public events that have taken place in one way or another associated or supporting the MS4 program, or the Wallkill River Race in September, the Wallkill River Summit at SUNY New Paltz in May, and the town presence at the Harvest Fest in September of last year also, and then the New Paltz Regatta. For those that are familiar with these events, they usually have booths or people that can speak or talk or have handouts about stormwater quality improvement programs. The second item is to get the public involved and participating in these kind of stormwater quality events. Again, the Wallkill River Watershed Alliance is a key place for this. One of the highlights is the only 1 ton of debris taken out of the today, which should actually be in the morning. This MS4 annual report that I'm talking about this evening will be available at the town clerk's office, on the town website already, and at the library. You guys can hear me again. I'll reshare. And if Neil or David, if we just get a nod, if you guys can hear me. Okay, good. All right, so continue on. MS number 3 is for illicit discharge and detection and elimination. The town staff receives training in this category. And as a public outreach, if you see things that seem to be discharging into a waterway that is not supposed to be that way, contact the town, let someone know. And as part of this program, those are looked into. Those can be anything from a failed or failing septic system to an overall sanitary sewer system. A handful were investigated last year. None were found to be actual illicit discharges. But again, the town, through this MS4 program, is responsible for following up on issues like that. Please utilize that resource. The fourth item is construction site stormwater runoff control. Again, this is for construction activity that's in place. There's a permitting program, and inspections is required as part of that program. Last year, active construction projects were inspected several times by the town's designated engineer, and also the building inspector followed up with several more inspections along those same lines. Stormwater pollution prevention plans are required with construction projects of a certain size or bigger. And again, the town designated engineer or the building inspector will continue to review, be keeping an eye on these construction activities as they're going on. Minimum control measure number 5 is post-construction stormwater management. So once these facilities are built, put in place, like detention basins or swales or green infrastructure, it's important to keep an eye on them. As part of that, the town keeps an eye on infiltration basins, open channels, and ponds that have been set up as part of the stormwater control program. And also through several different programs working on implementing low impact or green infrastructure, newer, cleaner technologies into many facets of the town. Last of the minimum control measures, number 6, is for municipal operations. As part of that program, catch basins are inspected and cleaned as necessary. Roadside ditches are inspected each spring. And I think it's important to note that part of the limb and stick pickups in the spring, leaf pickup in the fall, that also helps keep that same material out of our rivers and streams. It is a part of keeping the waterways clean. This overall effort is a contribution to, again, keeping our environment cleaner, safer for everyone. The MS4 program focuses on stormwater quality. There are other programs in place for sanitary sewer discharge and drinking water safety, but all these programs combine to keep our waterways, our environment safe and clean for all of us. Part of this program, we're open for questions. The annual report will be posted for another 30 days. It's available for questions, concerns. If you have any comments or questions, please send them to the Kathy, the assistant with the Town of New Paltz, at the email address. Again, it's available at the Town Hall. There's the library, but most conveniently online for those that want to take a look at it. We're available for questions. We'll take them in the chat box or emails directly as this meeting continues. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ted. Neil, are you still on?
I am still on. I'm just trying to get the
yep. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Get someone else into the meeting who's trying to join. So yes, I've and with that, if anyone has any questions about this, if they raise their hand, we're happy to talk about them right now. If not, they can be emailed to clerk at Town of New Paltz and or to probably the clerk at Town of New Paltz, and we'll get them and we'll address them. And with that, I would like to, Ted, we all set with that?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be great. I appreciate the time. Wish you all well.
Great. We'll move on to the next. This is the draft community preservation plan. The task force has been working on a draft plan to protect water resources, open space, farmland, historic sites and buildings. Plan combines and updates the town's open space plan, farmland protection plan, the historic resources survey.
Presenting something so we'll have to, oops, sorry.
And it will include new geospatial information that has been collected in more recent years. It will identify New Paltz open space and historic preservation priorities and be a good tool to help guide conservation and protection activities in the future. Members of the task force are here to present this info, and I'll turn it over to them now. Whoever, I tried to make as many of you co-hosts as possible. If anyone is not, raise your hand and I'll make you a co-host and unmute your mic as well. And I'll hand it over to you, Ingrid or Kara, whoever is in charge, or Fink, Ted, Fink, who's going to present it. Or
I think this is Ted Fink. I think Kara was going to start.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to share the screen and we'll have a little presentation. Can you see our slides?
Yes.
Great. Well, my name's Kara Lee, and I'm on the Clean Water Open Space Protection Commission. And thank you very much for providing time for us this evening to present the draft community preservation plan for New Paltz. Those of us who are here with you are representing the New Paltz Community Preservation Task Force, and that's made up of people drawn from the town's Environmental Conservation Board, Historic Commission, and the Clean Water Open Space Protection Commission. And this task force has been working on this plan since late in 2019. Just a little background on that. This plan was inspired by the fact that in 2019, the New York State Legislature amended the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act to enable Ulster County communities to pursue funds for community preservation if a plan like this one is prepared and adopted. The plan will provide a valuable decision-making tool that can be used by the community to protect our natural and historic resources. We are presenting the draft to you tonight and asking for your feedback on it by June 25th so that we can finalize the plan and so that you can move forward to set a public hearing for it in order to adopt the plan. Just trying to advance the slides. Hold on one sec. There we go. Oops. So we all appreciate the extraordinary setting that we live in. We are here in the shelter of the Shawangunk and the Catskills, and we live in a setting that has abundant forest, clean water, farms that provide fresh food, open spaces that are available for recreation and wildlife, and stunning scenery. We have historic properties and features that inform us about our past and are part of our unique sense of place. And all these things taken together make up our community character. This is a brief list of the key natural resources that we're interested in protecting, and taken together with our historic resources and other things like our small town feeling and cultural richness all make up our community character.
Am I the only one that can't see the slide presentation? Could it be me?
I can see it. Anyone else?
I can see it.
Darn it. I have a strange setting. I'm sorry. Yep. I'm good now. Thanks. Now I can see it.
All right. That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Just to say that I think we recognize that our economy is deeply dependent on our natural resources and on our community character. And we know that we live in a place where people want to live and want to visit. Conservation has worked in New Paltz, but it really isn't done. On this slide, we have examples of the value that has been created in our community through conservation. We know we need to plan for this mix of features so that our community stays healthy and vibrant into the future. And it's really the time for the next chapter for conservation in our community. We started the plan by talking to residents to find out what they thought, and I'm going to turn it over to Julie, so I'm glad she can see the screen, to tell us about our 2020 community survey.
And will I say next and you'll switch it, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Kara. And thank you to everyone who's worked so hard on this. This Community Preservation Plan Task Force created a survey with the goal of learning about what resources residents thought were most important to preserve. We also wanted to gauge their level of concern for these resources, which were generally open space and historic resources. The survey, you can, keep on that one. I was wrong.
Sorry.
The survey was available online for 5 weeks from March 28th to April 30th. That's something to keep in mind with, there was a water crisis right before this, and this was during COVID, sort of hot COVID time. To drive people to the survey, we sent postcards to a little over 1,000 homes, residents of New Paltz. We sent emails from various sources, or emails were sent from various sources. It was posted on the town's website as well as social media. And there was at least one teacher at New Paltz High School that was asking students to go to and do the survey. The total number of respondents was 504. That says 506. I'm sorry, I think that could be wrong. Next. The age of respondents, about a third were 65 and older. Half were 34 to 64. So taken together, 79% were 34 and over. Next. The most commonly checked box was lived in New Paltz for 10 years or more. So the respondents tended to be an invested group, speaking from a point of longevity, experience, which I think is good. Next. Respondents saw a list of resources and were asked to say how important they thought they considered them. There were very high marks, if you will, for all of the resources. When you combine important and very important, clean water came out on top with 97%. Working farms had 94%, parks and trails 93%, wildlife habitat 92%, scenic views 90%, and historic character 84%. Next. In terms of their concern for the loss or decline of resources, clean water once again came out on top with 82% saying they're concerned or very concerned. You can see the rest. Give you a moment. So that's combined concerned or very concerned about the decline or loss of these resources. Next. The sprawl, 62% were concerned or very concerned about sprawl in New Paltz. And there were some other questions. We didn't want to take the time to say them here, to detail them here. One thing that was, you could say next, you could do it next. This is an example of an open-ended response. There were 2 opportunities to say something open-ended, and here's an example. I appreciate the work that has been going into for a long time in New Paltz, preservation of nature and natural resources for recreation and environmental protection. That is a big part of our decision to move here. And how much is enough? As much as we can afford, I guess. The natural beauty of the area has been a priceless resource to help make the current pause more tolerable. Such a wise investment for now and the future. And so the complete survey results can be seen that'll be posted on the website at the end of this report. And I think that's it. I'll turn it over to Ingrid now. Thank you.
Okay, I think that was my cue, Julie.
Oh, you?
This is
Okay, sorry, Ted.
Yep, that's okay. This is Ted Fink. It's good to meet everybody. Neil, I know you. I haven't met the other town board members, but I want to first of all say thank you for inviting me to help the task force and the town board develop a community preservation plan. And that's what I've been doing. I've been working with the task force now for the past 3 months to develop a plan that meets the requirements of the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act. All of the program components are all have to be tied very closely with the state laws. And there are 2 laws that actually are applicable here. And I've established contact with Victoria Polidoro, the town attorney. She calls it persnickety because of the overlapping requirements of the 2 laws. And so first thing the state requires in order to create a community preservation fund, there must be a community preservation plan developed as the very first form of business. And so what it does is the fund itself is based upon a plan, and the plan is to implement a plan for requiring interests or rights in real property from willing sellers, and that's important, for the preservation of natural and cultural resources that have been identified within the community. And this is what the state calls community character. There's other purposes, of course, in the acts, both of the acts. There's strict adoption procedures. So it's why it's very important to have Victoria involved in all of the steps to make sure that everything is done according to the law. But one of the things that I found, the plan itself consists of 3 different sections. The first one sets out the purposes of the community preservation program. It introduces the concept, it summarizes the plan document itself. The second section gets into defining what we call focus areas, and I'll get into that in just a moment. And then the third section identifies some of the existing land use control tools that the town already has in place. But first of all, in defining the purpose of the community preservation program, what I did is I took a look back at 35 years of planning documents in the town and the village of New Paltz. And one thing that I found that I think is of significance is that there was a consistent thread throughout each plan, each of the planning reports that I reviewed, the surveys that have been done, 3 different surveys now, at least 3 different surveys that were build-out analyses and so forth. They all have this common theme of protecting natural resources, protecting the small town character of the town, the history of the town, the scenic beauty of the town, and so forth. And one of the things that was remarkable about it is they all spoke consistently of finding a way to pay for the preservation of these important resources. And that's really, as Kara said, this is what's gotten the town to the place where it is now, which is to find a viable mechanism that New York State created a few years ago. I was involved in the first 2 communities in the Hudson Valley that put together community preservation plans, the town of Warwick and the town of Red Hook. And they've had very successful programs so far. They've been met with a lot of favorable reviews within the town, and I think everybody is pretty satisfied that they've been effective programs, and to be able to implement both of those communities' plans. And the hope here, of course, is that New Paltz is able to carry through on this as well. So in addition to the purposes of the community preservation program, the first thing that the state requires is that each parcel that makes up what we've called focus areas. In the Act, it actually talks about projects. And if you think about a project or a focus area, there's water resources, there's agricultural resources, scenic resources, habitats and natural areas, historic resources, open space areas, all of these things. So a project would be, for instance, you want to protect a watershed because it's a public water supply watershed. Or you identify a critical mass of farms in the Wallkill Valley and the Flats, a historic district. These can be thought of as the focus areas or what the Community Preservation Act calls the projects. And so for each focus area, there's a parcel by parcel identification of all of the private lands that are owned within those areas. And we've done this through both maps as well as tables that identify parcels only by identification numbers, by their acreage, and by their priority. And I'm going to let Ingrid talk a little bit about how the priorities were determined. They were all on the basis of geographic information systems and on the basis of information and data that's been collected by the town for quite some time now. And then finally, the third section of the plan, the evaluation, the state calls them alternative land use measures. And these are things that the town has, like zoning, cluster regulations, and a whole host of other things, your subdivision regulations. And these are all detailed within the plan. And so those are all of the things that, that basically have been incorporated into the plan. The third and final section is a recognition that even though there's a lot of parcels that have been identified that make up these focus areas, that there's not always going to be money available to be able to purchase lands within those focus areas. You may not always have willing landowners to sell their properties. And so in recognition of that, the state requires that there be other tools identified that can be used to protect the community character within New Paltz. And so that's really, that's it for my end of the thing. And I'm going to turn it over to Ingrid now so she can tell you a little bit about the actual methodology that was used and the work. And I do want to give a shout out to Ingrid. She did an enormous amount of work. A lot of volunteer hours went into development of a spreadsheet that was incredibly complicated. And so it was a real testament to the amount of time that she spent on it. Ingrid?
Thanks, Ted. Thank you. My name is Ingrid Heckel, and I'm the chair of the Town of New Paltz Environmental Conservation Board. So the first step in the planning process was to review the town's prior plans and studies and identify established conservation goals and priorities. And these included the comprehensive plan, open space inventory and plan, farmland preservation plan, historic resources survey, and the historic inventory of open spaces and others. We then compiled all of the existing spatial data for the town's natural and cultural resources from these prior plans and inventories, along with recent data from public agencies and nonprofits, and created a comprehensive database using GIS computer mapping software. Next. In addition, we created some new data, including verifying and updating a 2003 inventory of scenic views and roads in the town, and mapping candidate local historic districts based on recommendations in the town historic inventory. Next. Altogether, we compiled 35 data sources and used that spatial information to define 7 community preservation focus areas around broad categories of natural and cultural resources listed here. The spatial information was used to evaluate all of the roughly 3,900 parcels in the village and identify parcels where priority resources are present. So I'm going to run very briefly through the data that we use to identify conservation values within each focus area. Next. We use these 8 data sources to evaluate priority for water resource preservation, such as aquifers and wetlands. Next. We used 5 data sources to evaluate priority for farmland preservation, such as lands in an agricultural district or with prime farmland soils. Next. We used 10 data sources to evaluate presence of priority habitat and natural areas, such as mapped important areas for rare animals and forests greater than 100 acres in size. Next. We used 5 data sources to evaluate historic preservation priorities, including the National and State Register of Historic Places and candidate parcels for local landmarking based on the historic inventory. Next. And we used 4 data sources to evaluate value for recreation and trails, such as proximity to existing parks and public recreation lands or major trails. Next. Lastly, these are the 3 data sources we use to evaluate scenic and open space character. Next. We use the computer mapping software to overlay information and identify the community preservation features present on each parcel. For example, to evaluate water resources, we analyzed every parcel in the town and village to look for reservoirs in their watersheds, aquifers, floodplains, wetlands, and 4 other criteria. If a water resource was present, the parcel received a point, and those points were then added up so that a parcel could score up to 8 points for water resources. Next. We repeated this process and created a giant spreadsheet, as Ted said, with each parcel's attributes using 35 criteria defining the 7 resource focus areas. A total score was calculated for each parcel at the end, and we removed parcels that had a score of 0 or that were fully developed except for historic properties. Next. In summary, about 1,500 parcels in the town and village were identified as containing some priority natural and cultural resources contributing to community character with a maximum score of 23. The analysis identifies where multiple natural and or cultural resources are present, which may be considered a higher priority from a conservation standpoint. The plan is intended to serve as a decision support tool to prioritize eligible parcels for potential conservation under a community preservation program. Of course, not all parcels will ever be protected. In some cases, local laws and zoning tools can help address conservation of natural and cultural resources, and those are also described in the plan, as Ted said. Next. So we hope you'll review the plan and provide us with feedback or let us know if you have questions. We would like your comments by next Thursday, the 25th. I think that's actually Wednesday, the 25th, so that we can finalize the plan. And at your next meeting on July 2nd, we request that the board open a public hearing so that would be held on July 16th. At that meeting, we also plan to come back to discuss the creation of a New Paltz Community Preservation Fund and the financing mechanism we want to pursue for New Paltz in accordance with the Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act, which was passed by the legislature in 2019, as Ted said. So we will provide you with information on both prior to the meeting on July 2nd. So that's all for our presentation right now. Thank you again for your time and interest.
I have a question.
Just note quickly that the draft plan is available on the town website under the Community Preservation Task Force. And there you can also find the complete results of the community survey that Julie summarized. And this is an email address you can contact with any comments or questions. That's it.
May I ask a question that may be a little naive? How does this relate to a couple of things? I know years ago we put together an open space fund. I think it was a couple of $1 million, and I think a Barrow property was bought there. How does this relate to that fund, and why is this different? Can you give us a little bit of background on it? I think some people will remember that.
Kara,
do you want me to speak to that? So yes, you're right, David, that in 2006, we had a referendum and our residents voted to have a $2 million bond for open space protection. And we've spent a good portion of that bond, but not all of it. Each time we open the bond, it has a tax implication for all of our residents. And so it's, you know, it was a pre-tax cap strategy. So it's still there, but we've got about half of it left, a little less than half actually. We've made some great acquisitions and conservation easements with it, but we're looking for an alternative strategy that will not have tax implications for residents. So that's why we're pursuing this new fund in the future.
Yeah. So just a follow-up question, Kara, is it the plan? I mean, it just looks like there's a tremendous amount of incredible research here done on all of these properties, which is fantastic. So first of all, congratulations to you all for putting this together. Is it the plan to go also to use those resources to protect some of, with the properties you've identified here, to also use that remaining money? Or is that kind of money that like we just kind of shift strategies because this is a more tax efficient strategy to preserve the property?
Yes, and that's a good question. And initially, I think we thought we'd move away from the bond, but we've been advised that we probably want to hold on to the bond because it may be useful in terms of, relieving any debt we might have, or we've just been advised not to ditch it yet.
Yeah. Okay.
It's it's kind of like thinking like you keep that tool in your toolbox, but it's
Right.
not the first one you grab.
Good way to describe it.
It's just not as I think it's worked really well. We've done some good work with it, but it's not sustainable in the long term. We've spent, like you said, a little over half of it, and every time we do it, it goes right onto the taxes of all the taxpayers, and we're trying to figure out a way where we don't have to do that every time, and it's something that will work in the long term. And this is the first step to get there. And I have to say, thanks to Ingrid, especially I don't know if the town board realizes how much money she has saved us doing all of this, but I also think even if we were to use the bond in the future, I really think this is a really good resource of looking at all of this holistically. And it's a way, when we put maybe the open space bond together, GIS wasn't as far along, or maybe we didn't have someone as talented as Ingrid to kind of do all of this. But I like using something like this to kind of help with the decision making, no matter what happens in the future.
Neil, if I could just add my 2 cents on this, because Warwick and Red Hook also went down the same path, where they initially had bond referendums that their populace overwhelmingly supported, but they also came to the conclusion that it wasn't sustainable in the long run. And so they followed up with the community preservation plans after they had already expended quite some money in these bond referendums. And so it just proved to be so popular in both of those communities that the communities wanted to continue and as you say, find a sustainable way to be able to pay for it that didn't put a burden on taxpayers.
If there are no more questions, I'd like to ask one more question.
Yeah, I keep muting myself. Sorry.
Ingrid, can you comment a little on how this relates or intersects with your work on the critical environmental areas, something that's kind of like been pushed aside for some reason right now, and how does this relate to that work in your mind?
We relied on a lot of the same data that we used to delineate the critical environmental areas, and basically kind of attributed the parcel data. So if we have a map of 300 parcels in the town and village, it was kind of overlaying those different data sets, which I had consulted and as ENCV worked on critical environmental areas. But this is basically just saying, for each parcel, is this resource present or not present on the parcel? But there's a lot of overlap in what we were looking at. Not so much in term, except for like the recreation and historic and scenic sorts of things, but from a habitat and water resource standpoint.
Thank you.
So Ingrid will correct me if I'm wrong on this. So I look at the big difference between the critical environmental areas and this plan is actually, the goal is to identify how many of those things are present within each parcel, and you're getting a score for each parcel. The benefit of the critical environmental areas is that you're really, the value is the grouping of the parcels together. So it's kind of their same underlying data sets, but the value is different. The value of the critical environmental areas is that the sum is greater than the parts. And I think that the plan here is really looking at the value of the individual parcels. And yes, you could add them together, but maybe that's not a good way of saying it, but.
Yeah, there's also just a very different function for this plan versus the role of the critical environmental areas in environmental review processes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for bringing this and presenting it, and we'll be talking more about it, and we'll get back in touch.
Right, we plan to come back on July 2nd to talk more about how the fund would function.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? If not, we can move on to the business of the town board for the consent agenda.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Right. Thank you, CPP.
So may I have May I have a motion to approve and authorize items 3A through 3I on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to do that. David?
Second?
Second, Julie?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to item 4. So at the last town board meeting that we had, we were just getting to outdoor dining. It was a few days away. We issued kind of an amendment to the governor's executive order allowing waivers of all of the site plan amendments that needed to be done. So restaurants are allowed to open up and have outdoor dining. I think it's been fairly successful. I don't think we held anyone up, hopefully not. That was our goal. Some of them have said that they like it so much that they're going to actually go through the official process of amending their site plans and have outdoor dining in the future.
That's great.
So I'm looking forward to going out and sitting outside and having a beer at some point. I haven't been able to pull it off yet, but the next is that technically we're supposed to charge a $50 fee for all permits and applications. And I would like to waive those fees. A lot of these permits they're temporary in nature. They have to fill out paperwork just so we have it all, their plans and drawings. And these restaurants are struggling enough, and I don't want to add another $50 fee just to fill out temporary paperwork we could close tomorrow if the number of cases go up, and then they might have to reapply. And so I initially told Stacy that I'd like to waive those fees for all of the restaurants, and I've done it, but I really need the town board approval to do that. And so I'm making, I'd like to make a motion that directing the building department to waive all associated permit fees for outdoor dining until further notice.
Second, Julie?
Second. If people want to have any discussion on that.
Good idea.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and so I'm all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Does it cost a lot for them to amend their site plan to include outdoor dining? Will that process cost a lot for people?
Well, they have to go before the planning board, right? It's a big deal, and that's we didn't want them to have to go before the planning board just so they could put picnic tables outside their stores right now.
Right.
And, it would take months. We'd have a vaccine before these guys got through a planning board. And,
well, I meant for when they want to amend it for future.
I think, yeah, I don't know how complicated it is, but it is, you have to go before the planning board and you have to submit plans, and, they have to make sure everything's, up to code and accessible. So I think it's a lot of work. What I like about this is that it gives someone an opportunity to see how it goes. And, they may decide, well, maybe I don't really like it, but the feedback we've gotten from at least one restaurant is that the people who at the restaurant really enjoy it, and they like it too, and it's a pleasant experience. So they're going to go through the process. So I look at this as a success, letting people try things out. It's still safe. Stacy's looking over all the plans, making sure people aren't going to trip and get hurt or anything. So
Neil, I think you're going to have to buy a round of beers for the planning board.
Yeah.
That's a derogatory comment.
So, and Neil, if it's a village restaurant, the village would be taking care of that, right?
Yes, it's all in the village. The village is in charge of that stuff. The village and town are very different. You know, we don't have the parking lot for people to use. A lot of our restaurants aren't really on streets and they don't, you know, they're some of the restaurants are, you know, maybe they're in the Tops parking lot, or they're, you know, they're more rural and they have a grassy area that they can use. And so it's very different. So we've kind of had very different, every town, that town supervisors have been talking about it. Every town is actually completely different. You wouldn't think so, but they're all doing different things. But, you know, I appreciate Joe Moriello worked on this like fast, and Rick Golden, like they turned this executive order around very quickly, so we didn't hold anyone up. And Stacy is putting in a lot of time making this work. So I really appreciate it. People need to get out, and this helps it so they can get out safely. They have plans, you know, they have, you know, how much they're going to clean, how far tables are going to be apart. Hopefully it works. With that, we'll move on. I'd like to make a motion for the June warrant in the amount of $384,010.17.
Second, Julie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And with that's all we have for this. We have an executive session. So I would like to go into executive session. We're going to come back out of executive session, and I'm going to pause the filming, but I never know how this is going to work. But I may need to kick everyone into the waiting room, and then I can let you all back in. So I apologize for that. It's going to take me a little while. We still have 14 people on. I'm going to put everyone into the waiting room, and then I'll bring the town board members back in to executive session. Okay? Hopefully I can do this.
Can you hear me, by the way?
I can hear you. Let's see. We got Neil, Alex. And I'm going to ask, we have two things to do in executive session. And so let me, we have two things to discuss in executive session. One, Alex, you'd brought up, you'd like to talk about the building department.
Yeah.
And then the next is, we have to go in there. Chief Lucchese wants to talk about some police issues. So first we will talk about the police issue, and then I'll ask Chief Lucchese to leave the executive session, and then we'll talk about the building department issue. So first, let me pause the recording. Before I do that, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss issues of personnel.
Second, Julie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I have restarted the recording. It is now 10:16, and I am admitting everyone back in to the meeting. And I am unmuting Christy. All right. So I would like to make a motion to come out of executive session. It is now 10:16. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would like to make a motion for the board to authorize me to hire a building department. And I don't have the name in front of me, but it's on the recommendation of Stacy Delareed at the salary that we previously discussed before COVID. And all of this is his name, and everything else is in the minutes for those meetings. And we'll have it. But if you guys authorize me to hire this person at that rate, I will do it.
I second. Alex.
All in discussion? All discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:17.
Second.
10:17. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Night. Thank you.
Bye.